Someone was waiting for us to message him.
Welcome back, everybody, all you music lovers. We are back after a brief absence to break down the year in 1999. And we are heading towards our mid-series finale, where we'll take a few weeks off as wonderful Joseph here does the deed and gets married. So we'll break down.
Wait, you're getting married, Joe?
I think so.
Break down how it's going to go tonight is we're going to give our tracks for 99. And then we're going to throw it out to the audience, on our normal Facebook poll of your pick from our favorite track so far. And we'll see if we take it into consideration or completely discard it. But I thought it'd be interesting tonight to start with debuts with Greg, because it's an interesting feature for this year. And I'm curious to see what you've got for us.
Yeah, there's some really, really great debuts just in music in general, and then some personal smaller artists that I get to highlight this year too, which is exciting. But before I get that, I know I teased that I was going to do a Carson Daly bit today, but I'm going to save it for next week, just because when we do our top songs and go over quickly our on repeat playlist, I feel like it'll fit more to end the 90s conversation. I know Carson Daly's influence extends to the 2000s, but I just feel like the songs, especially when we talk about these debut albums and some of the songs here, 99, the influence of him in TLC fits perfect with that rant. And also, I teased last night on the wonderful No Coast Defenders podcast about having a surprise for you for that one, but I'm just going to give it here. I'm going to make the songs of the 90s playlist live while we're recording next week. So people will be seeing me search the songs and adding them to the Spotify list next week.
Oh, quick, before we start anything, like, comment, subscribe. We always do this at the end. It's a good YouTubers, you got to do it at the beginning. If you're here, like, comment, subscribe down below. Make sure you're getting the podcast every week. Hit the little notification bell. Get notified every time our lovely faces come here to talk about music.
Absolutely.
Also, if you have pets, just put YouTube on a playlist of these videos on loop so your pets can watch us all day, and we can get those views in those hours. So we can monetize here.
I love it.
Yeah, Joe's was for a good podcaster thing, and mine was for a terrible YouTuber thing. Okay, but debuts. The first one I have listed was the first debut album I saw that came out in this year, and maybe the biggest one of that year, and that's the Britney Spears debut album. You couldn't go anywhere without that. Hashtag Free Britney. Also, CKY, their debut album was this year, which is interesting and kind of poignant because we're seeing all the stuff play out with Bam Margera and his drug use, and Jeffrey Trebin having to take a restraining order out of him.
Oh God, what a mess.
Yeah, I was never a big CKY fan, but like the band in those early videos leading to Jackass, like can't like deny what a cultural phenomenon the entire crew was. And CKY is still, I think, huge over in Europe. Harlem World, their first and only album was this year. And I mentioned it, A, because I love Mace and his twin sister was part of Harlem World. None of the songs were good, but an unknown Kanye, everyone thinks about Kanye really coming to blossom in that Jay-Z record, but Kanye produced on this album, as well as Just Blaze, before he had a name. He got the name Just Blaze during the production of this album. Yeah. Then we have like a really crazy debut in the fact that Jordan Knight of New Kids on the Block, his solo debut was 1999. So he went forever before a solo debut. And Robin Thicke produced this album, and then Robin and his father Alan wrote a track for this album together. So really crazy. So, I mean, we get early Kanye in the Just Blaze on Harlem World, and then we get early Robin Thicke on this. The Crazy Bone solo album was on this. It was a 2-disc album. Crazy Bone solo stuff never as good as Bone Thugs. None of the solo stuff was ever as good as Bone Thugs. The Dido debut album, Jerry Halliwell's debut album. Also, she leaves the Spice Girls this year too.
Yes.
The White Stripes debut album was this year as well, although they didn't hit big. The Beta Band, who had their 3 EPs, was released earlier and featured in the High Fidelity soundtrack, but their actual album this year, Macy Gray, who is just phenomenal. Interesting one is Pez, which with two Z's, later became Billy Talent. So into our Canadian theme.
Oh yeah.
Their first album was this year, and you cannot find it on Spotify at all. And they did a cover of New Orleans is Sinking, which I really wanted to hear, but also not on Spotify. So if you are a musically inclined person and you want to be on our Battle of the Ballads, do a great cover of New Orleans is Sinking so I can put it on in place of the Pez. Yeah, just crazy to think. Pez, there was another American band named Pez, so they had to change the name. They went Billy Talent. Yeah, Christina Aguilera, her debut as well. LFO, Vitamin C, Eve, Most Def, now Yasmin Bey, A Newfound Glory, Lil Wayne, Jessica Simpson, Q-Tip, another one who'd been around for forever as part of Tribe Called Quest, of course. His debut didn't come out until 99, so that's two we got that came out forever. Khalees, which my favorite song of hers is on that debut album. Mandy Moore, Her Space Holiday, who's this awesome like lo-fi techno pop guy. He released two albums. It was a double album. It's now been released as a double album. Sorry About Dresden.
So do you want a funny fact about Mandy Moore?
Yes.
My first tweet ever was, I wonder if Mandy Moore dreams about me at night, and she retweeted it. So got a little love for Mandy Moore.
Was she married to Ryan Adams at that time?
She was married to the asshole at the time.
So yeah, if I were Mandy Moore in that case, I'd be dreaming about anyone who wasn't an asshole. Fuck Ryan Adams.
Yes.
But yeah, Sorry About Dresden, who were on Saddle Creek Records, and Conor Oberst's brother Matt was the lead singer of that. And I am Facebook friends with the drummer James. He's now doing Smoked Ribs that he funded by quitting smoking, which is awesome for him. James is a great guy from North Carolina. Unfortunately, Matt, who is a school teacher, he passed away a couple years ago. Sorry About Dresden only released a couple albums, but they're fantastic. And another great Canadian band, The Weaker Thans, their debut album was this year as well, which kind of blew my mind that they have been around for so long. But yeah, those were the notable debuts I marked down.
I love it. And we talked about this last week too, last episode, just about how eclectic it all is. When you start to look at just the mix of the pop punk, the punk, everything starting to fuse together. We were seeing, you mentioned Carson Daly, but all this stuff on TRL as one. So you have all these lists, and all of a sudden all these groups are together, and then tours started. It was amazing. But speaking of eclectic lists, the breakdown for our song suggestions this year is absolutely amazing. And it was, well, you'll hear here. So we have longtime listener here, Sherry Nutter Timothy, Black Balloon by Goo Goo Dolls, Last Kiss Pearl Jam. Definitely one of her favorite covers ever. Corey Mosier, Kesserline, My Name is Eminem, I Want It That Way, Backstreet Boys, What's My Age Again, Blink-182, and Guerrilla Radio / Sleep Now in the Fire, Rage Against the Machine. I mean, that playlist alone right there, how freaking eclectic.
Night night, Ani.
Good night, Ani. And then Jessica Snitecki gave us Destiny's Child, Say My Name, Cher, Believe, Britney, Baby One More Time, Blink, All the Small Things, Dre and Snoop, Still Dre. She meant I'm there. Adrian Costello gave us Britney Bitch, which I totally agree. And I wanted to wear my Britney shirt, Spirit shirt today, but I forgot to wash it prior to this episode since I wore it last week, not thinking. But I wore it in spirit. Eminem's My Name Is would be number 2 for her. Jim Earl gave us You Got Me by the Roots and Rockweiler by Meth and Red. Jeff Warden said Cracks Knuckles, and he said this is where the world of music takes off for a lot of us. And he's actually joined us in 2001 when we do that breakdown. And he gave Sugar Ray Every Morning, TLC No Scrubs, Backstreet I Want It That Way, Blink What's My Age Again, Ricky Martin Livin' La Vida Loca, Pearl Jam Last Kiss, Smash Mouth All Stars, The Chili Peppers Scar Tissue, Santana and Rob Thomas, Smooth, Weird Al The Saga Begins, Slipknot Wait and Bleed, Power Man 5000 When Worlds Collide. And then he went with the Japanese release of Linkin Park for One Step Closer, which did debut a year before we recognize it. I think I talked one time about that My December track. I was released on the Japanese one. It's my favorite Linkin Park song, and I couldn't find it. It was like off Napster or whatever when I first heard it.
And I debated putting that Linkin Park one on here because I know all three of us love My December, and that's where it was released. But since we've been pretty steadfast, with the exception of the big Canadian artists we've loved, we've been pretty steadfast about U.S. releases.
Yeah, that was because to be honest, I think that's gonna be my song of the year for next year. But She said that's the beginning of an epic acceptance of the fantastic blend of sampling guitars, hip hop vocals, and unquestionable talents of Chester Bennington with his ability to sing melodically intense and then full blown screaming. I felt the need to read that because R.I.P. Chester, and it's spot on. Our guy Dan Robillard gave us Smooth from Santana, All Star from Smash Mouth, and Kiss Me from Sixpence None the Richer. Zala Kennedy gave us Steal My Sunshine, All Star, Living La Vida Loca. Ian came through with Other Side from Chili Peppers, Sleep Down the Fire from Rage, Drive from Incubus, Stacked Actors from the Foo Fighters. Joseph, you gotta love that. And a song from Silverchair. Run to the Water from Live, Hanging Around from Counting Crows, Falling Away from Me Corn, Mud Shovel Stained, Wait and Bleed Slipknot as his song of the year. Ellen, who will be joining us in, was it 2004? I'm just going to lie and say 2003 because I want her to get mad and yell at me again through Facebook.
It's changed. She's been joining us for so many years now.
Yeah, she's here in spirit. She gave us That's the Way It Is, Celine, Living La Vida Loca, Smooth, Say My Name, Breathe from Faith Hill, Back at One from B. McKnight, Heartbreaker from Mariah and Jay-Z, Larger Than Life from Backstreet, Baila Mos from Enrique, Something Like That from Tim McGraw, and shout out to Phil Collins for giving us the World of Tarzan soundtrack. And she's got to always throw that Disney in there.
Well, she's got her soundtrack and she's got her Celine, so that's all Alan sings right there.
Pastor Dan Brockway gave us Forgot About Dre. Jason Muscolino, My Name Is M. Scar Tissue from Red Hot Chili Peppers, What's My Age Again, Blink-182, You Got Me from The Roots, Still Dre from Dre, Nookie from Limp Bizkit, Labyrinth Thing from Q-Tip, and Guerrilla Radio from Rage. Brett Meyer, who's actually getting married this weekend, gave us My Name Is. Shout out to Brett. I'm going to request that and see how much people like it. Paul Brenner gave us I Want It That Way from Backstreet. He said there's no other answer. We may have another answer for you, though. Justin
Zane, many other answers.
We might have 3 other answers for something.
Justin Zane gave us Bush Chemicals Between Us, My Name Is, Citizen King, Better Days, Black Balloon from Goo Goo Dolls, Lit My Own Worst Enemy, ODB Got Your Money, which somehow isn't a commercial these days. So shout out to ODB for still living on in the world.
His family got his money.
Yeah, exactly. Pearl Jam Last Kiss, Power Man 5000, Worlds Collide, and Smooth from Santana and Rob Thomas. And rounding it out with our last 3, Kelly Susie. Said most have been mentioned already, but Under a Violet Moon by Blackmore's Night, as in Richie Blackmore from Deep Purple. That's hers. Brian McBride said he's just going to pick the entire Wu Chronicles and leave it to us. That's a dangerous game. And then our guy Tony DeRomanis gave us Collective Soul Heavy, Filter Take a Picture, Vertical Horizon, Everything You Want, Citizen King, Better Days, J-Lo, If You Had My Love, Destiny's Child, Say My Name, Buck Cherry Lit Up, Bush Chemicals Between Us, the whole Sugar Ray album, and ending with Limp Bizkit Nookie, which is a foreshadowing for his album and song of the year in 2001. Stay tuned. A lot to digest there, but a lot of different music. And somehow this was the year that it was all played on the same radio stations and the same TV stations. And this was before you made a Pandora or Spotify playlist. Just a lot of great stuff fusing finally and bringing. There were times where if you only listen to certain kind of music like your friends did, or, it's kind of like, you listen to that. And this was that transition where it's like, all right, let's all come together and just listen to music, put on an awesome playlist. And I'm excited to hear what you guys have for the folks at home today. And I know we just ran through a ton of tracks, but Joseph, I missed your face last week and I really want to hear from you.
Yeah. I apologize to all the listeners about that too. I was traveling last week and really thought I could make a Tuesday, but it just didn't happen.
Instead, you were golfing instead of working? Come on, guy.
I was golfing. The social responsibilities are as important as the work responsibilities.
That was always my excuse when I was a manager at Target for getting drunk with my employees. So
you gotta rub elbows, build that network. But anyway, interesting. There was a lot of songs in that list that were given to us by the listeners. But I don't think I heard any of my top 4. So that's awesome.
That's why.
So going through some of the ones I think we heard, Every Morning, Sugar Ray. We heard Britney Spears a couple of times, but I don't recall if Sometimes was mentioned. That's my favorite off that album. I think Tony mentioned Heavy, Collective Soul, great song. My Name Is came up a number of times. Livin' La Vida Loca, Ricky Martin. That song is an absolute earworm. It will never leave I Want It That Way, Backstreet, of course, that was mentioned a number of times. Steal My Sunshine, also mentioned a couple of times in that list. I heard a couple of Blink songs, but I'm not sure I heard all the small things, which would be my pick there. Limp Bizkit, Break Stuff was this year. Um, and that one's interesting because I don't think it's a very good song.
Don't say that to Fred Durst because he's going to want to break your fucking face tonight.
Well, that's the thing is as I was going through them, I was like, man, I don't know if this is a good song actually. But I remember being in elementary, just being like, yeah, I want to break some fucking faces. Like, I'm never gonna do that. But
I think all of our Limp Bizkit aggression stuff was great for that time. It fit where we were in life. But as you listen to Break Stuff as a 30-something-year-old, I'm not sure if it has the same pertinence.
Gregory mentioned the Macy Gray debut. Of course, I Try is off that album, and that song is an absolute bop. I know some people don't like her voice in general.
Those people are wrong. Like, opinions can't be wrong, but those people are wrong because her voice is perfect for that song.
I honestly just love how unique it is. It was a very different voice at the time with all the pop and
Gregory, don't say that in the living room because we live with one of those people. LFO also debuted this year, Summer Girls. I'm also going to take me some Mambo Number 5, Lou Bega came out this year. That's another one that when you hear it, it just gets stuck in your head. Terrible song, but love it nonetheless. Take a Picture, Filter. Always come back to that song a lot. OLP had an album this year. Thief is going to be my choice off that one. Amazing song, just absolutely phenomenal. Is this Creed?
Fucking love Creed.
Yep.
Got me some With Arms Wide Open. This one I debated a lot on which one to pick. As I was writing them out, I was video chatting with Amanda, and I was singing them out loud to decide which one I wanted to pick. So it's With Arms Wide Open. Stone Temple Pilots, Sour Girl.
I was asked if there was ever one song that I could never hear again in my life, what would it be? And I named that song.
Oh, you're wrong, though. Absolutely incorrect. But yeah, Sour Girl, Stone Temple Pilots, amazing. Savage Garden, this album here, there's a lot to choose from. It's a great album, but I'm going the Animal Song because it's just fun.
That whole album's a banger.
Third Eye Blind had an album this year as well. There's a couple to choose from this as also, but I went Deep Inside of You. I think that song's the most fun. Enrique, I love listening to the stuff he does in Spanish. His Hero in Spanish is amazing. Unfortunately, not from that album. But Bailamos was my first introduction to his majority Spanish songs. And I love it to this day. Eiffel 65, Blue, Daba D was this year. And what an annoying song that I absolutely love every second of it.
Yeah, I still bop to that song regularly.
And a couple others people mentioned, Christina Aguilera. I don't think I heard Come On Over, All I Want Is You. That's my favorite from the album, so I'm going to throw that in there. And then, of course, Santana featuring Rob Thomas was mentioned. Smooth is great, which leads me to my top 4 songs, my 3 runners up. First, Through Being Cool, Saves the Day. Maybe my second favorite song they did, but definitely my favorite off that album. I'm assuming you were going to mention them as well since you have the record handy. Awesome. Matthew Goodban, another Canadian we've mentioned a number of times. This one was tough for me to pick between them. I have both Hello Time Bomb and Strange Days. Awesome. Gregory's got all the props. I'm ruining it for him. My number 1 runner-up, which I think might surprise Dan here, is Learn to Fly, Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you would have thought that would have been my number 1.
I did think that was your number 1.
Nope. My number 1 actually comes from the Vertical Horizon album released that year. This is an album I love every second of it from beginning to end. And this one was tough to pick between Shackled, Send It Up, and You Say. Mm-hmm. They're all just, if you haven't heard them, go back and listen to that album. Um, we'll go with Shackled. If you asked me tomorrow, it'd be a different one, but tonight it's Shackled by Vertical Horizon. I got a reputation in Thule for being the Vertical Horizon guy.
As you should.
Well, they came out and played a show, and it happened to be during one of my shifts. And so I sent an email out to everyone, and it was supposed to be kind of like goofy, tongue-in-cheek. And I was like, hey, guys, I know not everyone even knows who these people are by their name. But if anyone would be willing to switch a shift with somebody who owns, I think it's 3-time platinum album, blah, 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 from 1999. And again, it was supposed to be goofy, but it was like I became the Vertical Horizon guy while I was out at Thule for that reason.
You know, what's interesting is Everything You Want is what brought people to Vertical Horizon, and then the rest of that album just slaps so amazing. I love it so much. And I actually had Best I Ever Had as your runner-up for Song of the Year in my head off of that album. So I was wrong twice. But that is my favorite Vertical Horizon song.
But getting the correct albums and artists for just having them reversed pretty good. It means I'm pretty predictable, I think.
You stumped me again. And we're on to Greg now. We got some great debuts from you, and I know that we have some awesome indie stuff that can be thrown in here too, and I imagine it's going to be on your list. So what do you got for us this week, friend?
Well, first, I just want to mention that Fiona Apple, who I've gone on record as saying I love and made her a Song of the Year so far, she released an album this year with the greatest album title of all time.
Oh, the wraparound.
So I'm going to quickly read that album title, which is technically a poem. When the pawn hits the conflicts, he thinks like a king. What he knows throws the blows when he goes to the fight. And he'll win the whole thing before he enters the ring. There's nobody to banter when your mind is your might. So when you go solo, you hold your own hand and remember that depth is the greatest of heights. And if you know where you stand, then you know where to land. And if you fall, it won't matter because you'll know that you were right, which is ridiculous and brilliant all at the same time. It's often abbreviated when the pawn hits.
Yeah.
And then just the ellipsis.
She should get together with Brand New and just exchange notes about titling things.
Well, this is the only one that she has ridiculously titled. I mean,
yeah, because I think the title album came after that, right?
Yeah, Title is next, and crazy she's been around for so long, but it's only 4 albums. And
yeah.
And the one that came out during COVID was Fetch the Lightning or Fetch the Lightning Bolt. So, which was a great album. So anyway, Take a Picture has been mentioned by a few people. That is just a lovely song. Someday Falls Apart. Those are 2 different songs. Sorry, but by Sugar Ray. This is my favorite Sugar Ray album. You Drive Me, parentheses for that, and Crazy, and Baby One More Time for Britney. Maybe not my 2 favorite Britney songs, but I think, you know what? Crazy is my favorite Britney song now that I'm thinking about it. Just Watch Fireworks by Jimmy Eat World. It's long, but that is my favorite Jimmy Eat World song. It used to be my avatar on AIM because it was just 2 people watching fireworks. And I was madly in love with a woman across the country. And that was one of the things we talked about wishing we could do together was just watch fireworks. I don't even like watching fireworks, but I wanted to watch fireworks with her. So that became like a thing for us. So there's a lot of emotional sentimentality to that. R.I.P. April. No Scrubs and Unpretty for TLC. Unpretty being the best of the TLC songs. It's such a beautiful song, beautiful message.
Amazing.
You Got Me featuring Erykah Badu and Eve from The Roots. I love that The Roots always just represent other Philly artists at all times. Lit as one of my favorite albums of all time. In May, if we were doing albums of the year, this might be my album of the year. But to narrow it down to just a couple, 4, My Own Worst Enemy, Miserable, and Ziploc.
Yes.
I have my good buddy Chirp had wanted me to listen to the Wonder Years for years, and I never did. But now, like, since I have, and I will bring up the Wonder Years here again in a moment, but they do a cover of Ziploc, which is just phenomenal. So
ooh, I'll have to check that out.
I think if we were to do my top 20 songs on repeat, both Ziploc by Lit and Ziploc by the Wonder Years would both be in my top 20. That's how much I love that song. Eminem, another like album of the year contender for me, but my name is Guilty Conscience featuring Dre, Role Model, and I Just Don't Give a Fuck. I mean, that album was great. Silverchair, Anthem for the Year 2000, I think
Yes.
is my favorite song off that, and the song's been mentioned another couple times, and another
Absolute
great
banger.
track. My favorite Blur song came this year, and it's Coffee and TV. And it was mostly for the video, but like as I've grown up, I've just loved that song more and more. Blackstreet had Girlfriend, Boyfriend with Janet Jackson, Ja Rule, and Eve, who's getting love again. And also the Take Me There remix, which Take Me There came out the year before, but since we're doing a separate thing for movie soundtracks, we didn't mention it, although that is a banger off that Rugrats soundtrack. So I mentioned the remix so I could put Take Me There on the playlist for this year as well as the remix.
The loopholes.
Yeah. Hate Me Now featuring Puff Daddy from Nas. I mentioned the Jordan Knight debut album. Give It to You by Jordan Knight is my favorite pop song of that year. And it's also the most adult, which makes sense because I think he was 35 at that time. So it should be the most adult since everyone else is in their early 20s. Room at the Top, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, maybe one of my favorite later day Tom Petty tracks. Shake Your Bon Bon, Ricky Martin is my favorite Ricky Martin track. Moby, Southside, and Natural Blues. And everyone knows Southside is having Gwen Stefani on it, but on the album, before its release, she was not able to record those vocals. But when the single was released in 2000, it was released with her vocals. So the original album track and the single are different for that reason.
Yeah, that wasn't on that Play album.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was like released as a single afterwards with those. And lovely track. Show Me the Meaning of Being Lonely, my favorite Backstreet Boys album this year, maybe of all time. ICP, which I think this will be the last time I mention them because
as it should be.
as we're aging out of me being in junior high, but another love song. It's brutal and awful, but I just still have a soft part for it. And Fuck the World, which there's an iconic video of them doing that at Woodstock 99 and people throwing garbage and stuff because Woodstock 99 was a shit show. But those two songs are, I think, the only songs worth mentioning off that album. Steal My Sunshine by Len. I'd never listened to anything but that song by Len. So 2 weeks ago, I listened to that album. It is nothing like Steal My Sunshine. They are white boy rappers.
Yep.
It's not necessarily bad, but it's not Steal My Sunshine. Thank You, Dido, which I mean gets a revival in a couple years when it's sampled for Stan, but it's just a beautiful song. Then The Morning Comes by Smash Mouth is just a phenomenal song. Smash Mouth doesn't get enough credit for those tracks that are wonderful. The best Red Hot Chili Peppers album came out this year. We've had a couple tracks mentioned from it, but Around the World is a good blend of like old Red Hot Chili Peppers and then what they're going to become. Other Side, Scar Tissue, and Californication are those tracks that lead into the new. Joe mentioned Vertical Horizon. Everything You Want and You're a God are my two favorite tracks off that. We haven't been talking soundtracks, but I did mention Blame Canada on my short list because
it fits.
It's the perfect, like, I know in this case it's specifically Canada, but isn't that the American way is we're always going to blame someone else?
Oh yeah.
And this is another song. It's not on Spotify, so it will not appear on the list. So if you want to do another cover, there's lots of covers of Blame Canada and they're all bad.
We also can find, recently Lauren got drunk and wanted to listen to DVDA and could not find them on Spotify and had some terse words for Alexa.
Smooth has been mentioned a couple times. My favorite track off that album was Maria Maria. It's so lovely. The White Stripes, The Big Three Killed My Baby is my favorite track off this debut album. Limp Bizkit has been mentioned. And much like ICP, like junior high, Gregory was just really into this. So Nobody Like You featuring Jonathan Davis and Scott Weiland might be my favorite track off that. It's just so good. Brick Stuff, No Sex with Aaron Lewis, all just phenomenal. I Try, Macy Gray. Dan mentioned Mandy Moore giving him some love. One night while working at the used record store, we put Macy Gray in, and I tweeted how much I was loving it and that I had to follow her on Twitter because of how much I loved it. And she gave a like and a retweet. So big shout out to Macy Gray. When Worlds Collide, Power Man 5000, that Rob Zombie Little Brother track there. Destiny's Child, Say My Name and Jumpin' Jumpin'. What a Girl Wants and Come On Over, which Joe mentioned, is outside of Beautiful. Come On Over is the best Christina track. Girls on TV is my favorite LFO song.
You bastard, you stole mine.
Summer Girls is great. Matthew Good has been mentioned. This was an interesting one because this was released both in the US and Canada with slightly different track listings. The US one has some previous tracks that weren't released in the States mixed in. So I have Giant, Strange Day, and Apparitions and Load Me Up off that album. I tried to pick things that were like on both releases, but I don't know how much I matched up with that. Got Your Money, ODB. Dan mentioned earlier like how crazy it is. Like you could hear all this stuff on the same radio station and same television station. Total Request Live did a piece on their MTV News feature that had ODB collecting his welfare. Like, and of course they played it for jokes, but I mean, what does that say about the world? And granted, he had more kids than I can recall right now. But it's just kind of crazy that that's the world we live in, where a famous rapper can qualify for welfare because he makes that little. So just insane. I think they missed that. I think if that piece was done today, it'd be a completely different story, but it was played for laughs then. I mentioned the debut, Khalees, and Caught Out There is just phenomenal. It's crazy to think she's the same woman who then does Milkshake a few years later.
Yeah.
Since the chorus is, I hate you so much right now. It's just such a great track. I Need to Know, Mark Anthony, easily the best Mark Anthony track. Pumpin' on Your Stereo, Supergrass, just a wonderful, wonderful track. Back at One's been mentioned, Brian McKnight. Our Lady Peace, Joe mentioned Thief. I also love Is Anybody Home? Those are probably the best two on that for me. The Most Deaf solo, Miss Fat Booty, I think is the most played Most Deaf / Yasmin Bey track on Spotify, but Do It Now featuring Buses, fantastic off that. Incubus, I Miss You and Pardon Me is the best song stretch of that year. So, and then Sour Girl, Joe mentioned Stone Temple Pilots. That's my favorite Stone Temple Pilots track. Testifying Guerrilla Radio by Rage. Those are the two opening tracks. So that would be a contender for best 2-song stretch, but I'm going to give the nod to Incubus.
Because Make Yourself is one of the most complete albums ever.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal album. And we've mentioned The Saves the Day. Joe mentioned Through Being Cool, which is another year I'm throwing covers in here. But that cover is better than the Devo cover and has more plays on Spotify, rightfully so. But Shoulder to the Wheel is also phenomenal on that. Might be one of my favorite Saves the Day tracks. I Knew I Loved You, Savage Garden. Butterfly from Crazy Town. People clown on this song, but it was everywhere.
Yeah, you could not nod your head to it when it was out.
Yeah, the album is terrible. I think Black Cloud off that album is okay.
I heard a Crazy Town song on the radio this past weekend. I didn't recognize it, but I think it's newer. Are they still making music?
I don't know what Shifty Shell Shock is up to, but
they might be release an album. That way you can do that tour and you can not claim it's a nostalgia money grab. It's because you have new music. That's a tried and true formula. I mentioned Fiona. Paper Bag is phenomenal off that track. Mm-hmm. And then Across the Universe was released on, I think, the Japanese edition of that album, that cover of Across the Universe. So 2 covers right there on back-to-back artists for me, but there are 2 versions of Across the Universe I love. Head over tails above the Beatles, and it's this Fiona one, and then it's the Rufus Wainwright, which will not surprise anyone since I have mentioned my love of Rufus Wainwright before. Dre with that Chronic 2000, which came out at the end of 99, because that's how things work. Forgot About Dre with Eminem, and Next Episode with Snoop, featuring his two guys there. Q-Tip. This is a great album too. Breathe and Stop, Vibrant Things, everyone knows. And it's not a great track, but it's fun. He has End of Time featuring Korn. And it's just this weird track, but it's so much fun. Could I Have This Kiss Forever featuring Whitney for Enrique, as well as Balamos. Beck had a phenomenal album. Sex Laws is just amazing. The video is so crazy. And Milk and Honey. Cisco's Thong Song, another song you can clown on, but like Dumps Like a Truck became vernacular for everyone.
I'm also shocked that this is the first time Cisco popped up.
Thighs like what?
What? Like Thighs Like a Truck. Like, what the hell? That's such a terrible lyric, but it became everything. Well, especially in junior high.
That whole Dragon album was it was a banger. I mean, even it had Ja Rule on the Drew Hill remix at the end of the album. Like, what is this even about? So that was an interesting album.
A short-lived, brilliant career of Cisco because he does movies and he's like featuring everything. And then a couple years later, it's the entire Drew Hill doing the chorus of an LL Cool J track. But speaking of that, Party Up and What These Bitches Want featuring Cisco from DMX. And then we're going to go to my indie tracks. And every one of these tracks was considered for my song of the year. But Count the Days, Her Space Holiday. It's just a brilliant track, but I love so many more Her Space Holiday songs coming up in later years. I mentioned Sorry About Dresden earlier, but Crusades, you're going to listen to it when you hear the Spotify playlist, but it's just a wonderful, wonderful track. And if you're familiar with Bright Eyes and know how Conor Oberst's voice sounds, you'll be shocked at Matt's. He's got a better tone. Connor's got like that irregular voice. The Dylan comparisons are right there because they've just got awkward voices that only work with their music, but Matt could sing in any band possible. And then he chose to be a school teacher until his death. So like good on him, but Sorry About Dresden, so good. The Passives and Worked Up Sexual by The Faint. And for my friends I grew up with in my late teens and early 20s, they'll know of the Awesome Dance, which is a straight-armed version of The Monkey, which Johnny Bravo famously did in that cartoon. But that was from Worked Up Sexual, and it got its name not because the dance is awesome. It's literally just moving your arms. But the first time I heard Worked Up Sexual, my arms naturally did this, and I was bopping. And when I played it the other day, like that was just my natural reaction, and that's just awesome. So that is the origin of the Awesome Dance. You guys are welcome to use it. Diagnosis by the Weaker Thans, and this one is the number 2 song of the year, but it's still Dre by Dr. Dre. That was the song of the year. This album was everywhere. It was a big deal. I know there's a bunch of controversy about Dre and his now ex-wife. But remember, for hip hop, still today, like being accused of having a ghostwriter is terrible. Dre wore that like as a badge of honor. He's like, okay, well, I got M. He's going to write tracks for me. Oh, Jay-Z's going to write tracks for me. So it's brilliant. He could have like in such an ego-driven, like macho genre of music, Dre openly used ghostwriters and still had one of the best hip hop albums of all time.
Well, yeah, so he made them feel like it was a privilege to write for him too. It's like, hey, you do all my work. Oh, this is so great for you.
Yeah, my only reason to not pick it was that I wanted to pick a smaller indie band, and I was like, all right, let's go with the better track and the more popular track, because as we get later in the years, I'm going to have more smaller and indie bands for my song of the year. So let's just give it to Dre because we may never get another Dre album again.
That's a fact.
I feel like your brain is perfect for online content creation. Because like people don't care if you're like, I'm basic with my music. I mean, no, I don't think there was really, other than like maybe Matthew Goodband because they're Canadian, or like maybe Saves the Day. For the most part, all my stuff was very, very well known, very popular. And you're out here like, yeah, this is probably the best 2-song stretch of the year. Maybe the best opening on this one.
Yeah, it's interesting because that Incubus is definitely the best 2-song stretch. And when I had that Rage Against Machine as a contender as well, I was like, well, that is the best 2-song album opener stretch of the year.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned like the Matthew Good mention, because I said I was going to talk about the Wonder Years again, and they do Halloween shows where they'll do a full set, but they'll also do like a 5 or 6 track set of a cover, and the openers will do covers and everything. Unfortunately, the last time I saw them, actually the only time I saw them do it live, the first opener did Carly Rae Jepsen as their cover set, and we missed it because we were at the brewery having a good time, and which is uncharacteristic of Chirp and I. We love to go see openers, but we were having a good time at the brewery. So I missed the Carly Rae, but that year the Wonder Years did Limp Bizkit. Now the Wonder Years crowd was mostly like late teens, early 20s. And then you have near the back of the stage by the bar with the bartender we like, one of the bartenders we like, is Chirp and I, and like his younger cousins and their friends. And they are not into the Limp Bizkit cover at all. But Chirp and I are just thrashing. And I look over and there's this wonderful lesbian couple next to us also thrashing. So we became like a 4-unit group while none of the young kids around us are into Limp Bizkit. But it just made me think, as terrible as Fred Durst is, I would love to see Limp Bizkit because those 5 songs were wonderful and they weren't even my favorite 5 songs. But then again, like, give Fred Durst the credit. Like, he directed all those videos back then. He was directing the Korn videos. So good on him. I wish he could be a better person.
Yeah, I mean, he was the reason why I started wearing a red hat all the time. So, man, you guys stole all my Matthew Good love, but that's okay.
Listen, I deserve it. This is the second time I bought this CD because I lost the case of the first one. I still have the disc, just not the case.
Absolutely love that album. So I actually was able to cross a lot off my list, which is nice. I put on number 36 from Dave Matthews Band for Amanda Joseph. I hate that song, but I just did it for a shout out for her because I know she loves them. Adam's song from Blink. The Affirmation album from Savage Garden is a banger. You got Affirmation, I Know I Loved You, Crash and Burn, which is my favorite Savage Garden song, and The Best Thing. Amazed from Lone Star came out, and that song carried for like 3 years on the country charts. It was crazy. Back Here from BB Mac, a boy band that was left out of the mix, but you'll hear it in the grocery store many times as you traverse the world.
Are you going to mention Take 5 next? Come on.
I probably should.
Not every boy band's worth mentioning.
Well, Back Here is on many of my playlists. Thank you, Gregory.
I'm actually not familiar with it. I just wanted to mention Take 5 because they did release an album that year. It just wasn't worth mentioning.
We got Beg for Me from Korn, Bills, Bells, Bills, and Bugaboo from Destiny's Child. Body Rock and Porcelain from Moby. That Play album was actually just such a great album that was so out of the blue at that time. But for the Grace of God from Keith Urban, I think that was like his first actual tracking hit. Come Original from 311, which is when they'd started to get away from heavier music and kind of more into like the fused reggae. That was their transition right there after Grassroots and their self-titled. Cowboy Take Me Away from Dixie Chicks. Flying Without Wings from another boy band, Westlife. Can't sleep on Westlife. Get Born Again from Alice in Chains. Then we come to my second favorite Jimmy Eat World album, Clarity. Goodbye Sky Harbor, Lucky Denver Mint, and A Sunday are just 3 of my favorite all-time tracks, and they all came from that album. Colorblind, really the only song from Counting Crows I'm willing to listen to anymore. I absolutely love that song, regardless of who's singing it or how bad of an experience I had at a concert. Then we come to my favorite Collective Soul song, She Said, came out that year. It's a tie between that and Run for my favorite song by them, but I think I got to go with She Said. She Likes Me for Me, Haley and Ardo from Blessed Union of Souls. I'm going to give Creed a little love. What If is an amazing song. Absolutely love that song. And I have to name Higher because it wasn't mentioned. I despise it, but it was huge. Home and Raw from Stained, that Dysfunction album was just so good. And I think Aaron Lewis is a great songwriter. I just didn't really care for much of the later music. Then we come to another of my top 2 favorite bands, Incubus. So of the tracks that were mentioned, I have Privilege, Stellar, Clean, and Make Yourself. I absolutely love every single track on that album. I never skip it. Science is my favorite album of theirs, but this was just such a listenable album. And then we come to Our Lady Peace. Man, my 3 bands had a big year that year. Weighted and One Man Army are my choices off of Happy or Healthy and Paranoid. No, Happiness Is Not a Fishing Catch is the one that was on. I had my Our Lady Peace playlist going before this while I was grading some books. So, all right. It's Not Right, But It's Okay. And My Love Is Your Love. A lot of people sleep on the Whitney tracks that came out that year. Not my favorite Foo Fighters song, actually, that they released is Next Year. That's my favorite Foo Fighters song.
So I'm the only one who didn't give love to this Foo Fighters album.
I love that song so much.
It's a good album, but it's my least favorite Foo Fighters album, I think. So when I had 807 other tracks to read, I left Foo Fighters off knowing you guys would take care of it.
I think Concrete and Gold is my least favorite, but
Nice Guys finished last from Green Day, Rearranged from Limp Bizkit. It's just that's a fun song. That's about the only song of theirs, I think, besides probably Faith, that I can still listen to like this day and like really enjoy. Praise You from Fatboy Slim, She's So High from Tail Bachman. My favorite Third Eye Blind song that they've released, Slow Motion, just such an amazing, incredibly written track. Spit from Kitty, they were such a great band that disappeared so fast. One More Road to Cross from DMX. That album came out, it was like 10 days before the year ended. So I don't think a lot of people lumped that into 99 because the tracks didn't start really hitting until 2000. But Steal My Kisses from Ben Harper. My love of that song grew from working at Burger King in high school. And that song was on every 5 minutes. So it just became like what my head said. The Bad Touch from Bloodhound Gang, because what a fun song. Dolphins Cry from Live. Incomplete from Cisco was my track off that album. Such an amazing track. Spit It Out from Slipknot. Waiting for Tonight from J-Lo. We Dance from Brad Paisley. You'll Be in My Heart from Phil Collins. And I actually didn't have a top 4 or 5. I just, my song of the year is No Scrubs. It was a no-brainer for me.
I prefer the Sporty Thieves.
The interesting thing is when you look up No Scrubs, it says its release date was 1992 from Who on the TLC Tip. And if that was the case, they probably would have been one of the biggest groups in the world for a very long time. But yeah, I had to go No Scrubs. I know that, Dre was there, M was there. That's just the song for me that I remember the most, from hanging out a car singing it and just hanging out with people. And even now I hear it and I have all the memories of when it came out. So for me, that was just easily the song of the year. But we have some tough choices to make in the next episode. And what I'm going to do is throw it out to the listeners for them to pick based on what we have said per year and then round it out to a victor. And we'll see what we think there too. I think it's going to be a tough road, a fun road. And I believe we're also going to share our playlists from Spotify of what they play based on what we listen to on our Spotify list. We're going to share it.
Yeah, the on repeat playlists, and I can't speak for these two, but I'm not going to touch my on repeat playlist this week. So what we hear, because it's not hard to alter that. I could put a song on repeat easily if I wanted to seem cooler than I am. But I'm going to read off, I don't know if we're going to do top 10, top 15, whatever we're going to do. I'm just going to read the tracks as they naturally appear on my Spotify playlist.
So I had never heard of it until the two of you came up with this awesome idea. So I had no idea. And then I looked and it was just the entire Greatest Showman soundtrack. That was all top 10 tracks because Laura and Zoe and myself all share it. And Zendaya is Zoe's favorite singer. So because of the 3 songs she sang. So that's mine. That was mine. We talked about this, a month ago. So I'm curious to see what's changed because Zoe has recently gotten into some other stuff. So it's gonna be probably a mix of Matchbox 20 and Greatest Showman.
The Greatest Showman remix album is great. There's a track feature with Missy and Kesha, which is just a combination I didn't know I wanted until I heard it, and of course.
Yeah, that, and there's even a good Zach Brown Band song in there. It's quite interesting. And then I think Pink had the one song that radio play from it. But
I won't manipulate my on repeat this week, but I'm not gonna not touch it, of course, just because I'm gonna run out of the podcast I'm listening to right now on the way to work. You gotta have something.
I mean, you could start with No Coast Defenders. That's a great one to check out on the way to work.
I could.
So yeah, that's gonna be fun. And then Greg, I believe you're gonna do a little segment showing some love to Carson Daly, or we wait until 2000 for that?
No, I will do it. I'll do it. I have a whole bit on Carson Daly, so we'll do it then.
So, folks, we have a wonderful mid-season finale coming up for you before Joseph prepares for his nuptials, and it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be zany, and it's gonna be time to discuss all these songs that you've heard about. So, I'm really looking forward to it. And we are about to break into the 2000s when music really started to change, and the downloading and albums and shows, everything. And MTV started just being a reality TV station instead of music station. So videos got even more creative and other platforms. So it's going to be a wild time. Looking forward to heading into wrapping up the 90s. Joseph, what do you got going on, my friend?
Nothing.
Awesome. Gregory.
I don't know if I want to share. I kind of don't know how to take Joe's comment about me having a perfect brain for content creating.
No, what I meant by that is just you wouldn't go online, I feel like, or maybe it's just me. I don't go online for things I can digest or view in other ways, right? Like I go to YouTube to watch disc golf because it's not mainstream. I don't go on YouTube and watch NBA highlights because I have that in my face all the time. You can turn on any radio station during the Throwback Thursday segment, and you're going to hear probably my entire list, bar one song, right? So it's one of those things where, for me, going online has always been synonymous with more or lesser known things. That's where I follow my nerdy movie things and got into video games and stuff like that, because for a long time that stuff was frowned upon. And I'm sure you guys, being comic fans, have a lot of experience with things not being mainstream or not being viewed positively, and you have to go other places for that. So your brain just works in more of a non-mainstream kind of way, I think, and I think it works really well for content creation online.
So what I'm taking is you think my brain is similar to Paul Shear's, and so that is a compliment.
Hey,
Greg, what do you got going on, my
Cheers to
friend?
Oddly enough, with comic book content, No Ghost Defenders last night, I think we got a little wacky, and I loved it. I think the Loki's allowing us to just be as zany as possible, and we all kind of threw out some zany stuff out there last night.
Full disclosure, that was my favorite episode we've done of No Ghost Defenders in 13 episodes.
Yeah, mine as well. I think I've loved a lot of our guests, but the fact that we just kind of let weird theories fly and have fun with it. And then earlier today, I filmed a No Ghost Defenders with my sister, and as I told these guys, it got
friends
interrupted.
like cool shit.
Oh yeah, my friends like cool shit. I don't know what I just said. Brain fart. I'm so tired. Yeah, my friends like cool shit filmed one with my sister that got interrupted. We were talking about her love of her kids and just motherhood, and it got interrupted with like the most parent moment possible. So that's a tease for that. That'll be up probably Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon. And last week, of course, Dan came and joined me, talked Spec Comics, and not enough of you guys have watched that. Dan gave great advice. So if you're into collecting anything, like take what Dan talked about comics and apply it to what you like collecting about. Also, it's Dan and I, so we went on some tangents because Dan and I go on tangents.
I love it. Shooting tomorrow, airing Thursday, Tim and I will be doing our mid-series finale, and we'll be announcing our giveaway to the audience. So we'll be doing that. And that's about all I have going on other than Pops for Patients New York. If you would like to make a kid smile, reach out to me. Donations are always welcome. Check out the short video I shared on my YouTube channel, Out of Panel Comics, which you're on right now. And you'll see exactly what it looks like when we get a ton of donations, and it's amazing. And
that video was fantastic. I will give it a double thumbs up.
And even if you can't donate, aren't in a position to donate, simply sharing something like that or sharing our message helps us a great deal. We went to national media in our first year operating, and things took off from there. COVID took a real kind of swipe at our typical donations we get. And so we're trying to rebound so we can make about 300 to 400 kids happy this holiday season. So let me know if you're interested. If not, cool, just share the message, please. Gentlemen, mid-season finale next week.
Yeah, and I mentioned the pet thing, but it worked for children. If you need a babysitter, put us on mute because we have some coarse language. But Joe's got toys behind him. I've got a teddy bear behind him. So we're kid-friendly if you need a babysitter. So just let him watch us.
But only if it's on silent are we kid-friendly.
Yes.
So looking forward to next week. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Dan.